are the things that the customers value. And typically what we find is that customers don't necessarily know what they value. I think one of the key things is you've got to actually forget about AI to a certain extent at the beginning, because what you've got to think about is a really simple question, but a question that not many organizations really ever consider, which is, what's the experience we're trying to deliver? So when you're just about before you're implementing AI, you should be determining what the experience is that you're trying to give to your customers and how AI will enable that experience. You're not just implementing AI for AI's sake. You've got to have that strategy in mind at the very beginning. And that means thinking about what's driving value for customers. So when you're starting to look at customer service or any of the areas, the key issue becomes, where do you drive value? Yeah, what are the things that the customers value? And typically what we find is that customers don't necessarily know what they value. So typically what we find is that it's not the transactional things that drive value, it's the more emotional things that drive value. So let me give you an example of that. Disney know that what customers like to eat at a theme park is Disney know that they'd like to have an option of a salad. Customers say they'd like to have an option of a salad. But also Disney know that people don't eat salads at theme parks. They eat hot dogs and hamburgers. So sometimes you can't take what customers tell you as being the reality of what they're looking for. I think the biggest hurdle is actually just two things. One is making sure that the organization is customer centric. Okay. So one of the challenges is that lots of organizations are not customer centric enough. And therefore the danger is that, and this comes to the second challenge, which is because they're not customer centric enough, they start to look at it just as a cost cutting tool, and they end up throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And therefore what you've got to do is you've really got to start to address that customer centricity at the beginning of an implementation to ensure that the organization is prepared to accept it, receive it, and implement it in a customer-centric way, and not get in the trap of just looking at AI as a way of reducing costs. Will it reduce costs? Yeah, sure, it will reduce costs. Okay, but you've also got to look at the opportunity areas, which I think is the key.